Hello and welcome to Association Transformation, the regular weekly podcast brought to you by the teams at Consort Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions and delivered in support of the Institute of Association Leadership. I'm Andrew Chamberlain from Consort Strategy, and I am joined by my inimitable partner in crime, if you like.
That was a
which
big
I always
word.
do.
That was a big
I
word for you.
always, I know, and I struggle to pronounce it sometimes. I really worked up to it, actually. Inimitable Elisa, who I understand you're flying down to sunny Florida after we're done with this recording.
I
You're going to
am. We
Disney
have
World for a few days.
No, work only. I have four. We have 4 inches of snow on the ground, so I haven't told my family that it's 75 degrees there. But yes, work, board retreats, leadership development, all the fun stuff. But wanted to get this podcast in before I went. I'm excited about the topic and glad to have you back, Andrew.
No, thank you very much. So do please introduce the topic to us.
Oh yes. Well, COVID changed everything, of course, and I think associations I've found with my clients tend to take retention for granted. They assume, oh, we're in the 80 percentile, we're in the low 90 percentile of retention, we'll be fine. Well, I think COVID shook everything up and maybe more than anything scared organizations into starting to take membership more seriously. Your value proposition likely had to change last year if it was based on events and networking. And I wanted to talk to people out in the trenches. So we've brought together a couple special guests with us today to talk about what recruitment and retention look like in this new world. So I'm excited to have Robin Brentley with us. She's the corporate account manager from UK&I SAP Users Group, and she's been yes, her resume is extensive. She sent us an impressive bio, and the user group itself is there to maintain general member engagement. I love this idea of a user group, so I'm excited to hear from Robin. And then we have Matt Dale, not Matthew. Only his mother can call him Matthew, but Matt Dale is the head of business development with UK&I SAP Users Group as well. So with his focus on building and developing new relationships, I liked the balance between them of recruitment and retention. It seemed like both sides of the coin because we know it takes both. And for me, this last year, there's no industry, profession, anything that hasn't needed an association more than it needs them now. And I only see some organizations stepping up to the plate and really serving their membership, or at least communicating what they're doing in a way that could increase membership. Memberships shouldn't be declining. Yes, finances are tough, but members need their associations more than ever. So I don't know, maybe we can get into the SAP user group and exactly kind of what you guys do for your members, or more importantly, how it's been going the last 10 to 12 months. Maybe I'll start with ladies first. And Robin, how are things at UK&I and the user group going?
Well, thank you very much for having us on today. I was actually quite lucky when the pandemic first hit. I was actually still on maternity leave. So I had a very strange sort of coming back to work but still being at home. So my maternity leave ended at June. So I've only really been into it for, say, the past 7 months or so. Obviously, it was a really big hit for us. A lot of our meetings were face to face. Matt and I used to travel the country on a weekly basis, and to then suddenly be at home working behind a laptop and not networking with people face to face, but over Zoom calls and things, I think that was big change for us. We were used to seeing our members on a weekly basis and networking with them. And then suddenly everything's virtual, everything's digital. So I think that's changed quite a lot for us. From a value proposition side, we are there for our members to obviously network with each other, to communicate with each other, to share challenges and experiences. And a big part of that was all this face to face. So we have had to sort of flip it round and now look at new ways for members to communicate with each other effectively. Virtually, which I think is a big challenge in itself, because you do tend to lose a bit of that personal touch, I think, when there's a computer in the way.
Yeah, Andrew and I talked this last year about how this may have exposed associations as simply event planners. All we were doing was putting events together and bringing people together. We were matchmakers. And what does that really mean in the new world? And what capacity, and maybe this is for you, what capacity did your members have for going virtual? Were they ready for that? Did you have to kind of teach them first, or was it just about moving the experience online?
Well, I think we were quite lucky because we had a nice mix anyway, where we were doing our actual special interest groups that we have. They were all majority face to face, but then we also had a mixture where we had a lot of our partners had webinars. So we did have that face to face and that virtual lineup already there. So it was a case of how do we change our normal face to face special interest groups from being face to face to eventually being virtual. And how do we make them different from the run of the mill every other webinar that we'd already run? So the thing was like using different platforms. Do you use Teams? Do you use Zoom? Trying to change the formats of it. Obviously, with our special interest groups, they were like full 1-day events. You'd get there, you'd start at 9:30 in the morning, and you do sessions and networking and coffee breaks, and then end at 3:30 in an afternoon. And it was trying to bring that sort of element. So although we've had to make the SIGs a little bit shorter, where people can obviously dip in and out as their interest takes, we do still try and like work in that networking element. I don't know if Matt wants to add anything from his side on that.
Yeah, it's I was there in the trenches when we had to very quickly cancel every single face-to-face event and then shift them all online.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Matt, but that did just sound like a right dig. Oh my God, Robin, there you were off having the time of your life on maternity leave, just having a holiday.
Back in sunshine.
Well, I don't want to say that all the hard work had been done, but I mean, all the hard work had been done.
This topic is quickly changing to inter-office politics and the psychology of coworkers. Right. This is quickly getting away from us.
But it was a case of us having to become experts in Zoom, in Teams, in WebEx very quickly, because it was simply a case of we would host webinars previously online. And we just lost that networking element straight away. And it was, how can we use these technologies available to sort of keep that networking aspect? Because the main part of user groups is our members sharing war stories with each other. It's not just standing up and delivering those sessions. It's also those conversations whilst you're having a coffee or whilst you're having a biscuit at one of these meetings. So whilst it's great that we're sharing all of these topics and all of these new technologies and all of these ways that people can, get the most out of their SAP systems or get the most out of wherever technology it is, there's still the little conversations that people have. They go, oh, that's a really good idea. Can I take that back into my business? Would you like to? Would you mind me giving you a call or just, swapping emails with you here and there? And it's those relationships that you develop, so that you take them away from those events and then put it back into sort of your day-to-day working life. But when everyone just sat with a presentation on a screen and you're listening to the same speaker and they've been going on for an hour and haven't stopped and you're wondering when they're going to take a breath. Let's be honest, we've all switched off after the introduction. And once you get to the main section, you've lost a lot of that information. So the first thing we did was we encouraged anyone who was delivering a presentation to shorten it. Can you say the same in less amount of time? Can you interact with the audience more? Can you be posting questions to people who can then put those questions, answers into the chat, or they post their questions into the chat? So then you can sort of engage with them still, because it's going to be very difficult to engage one-to-one when you've got over 100 people on a session. You're never going to be able to do it, and then you can't unmute everyone for them to put their hand up, and you have to control the audience in a different way. But yeah, it was a rocky start for us, but it's growing and growing, and we're finding different ways of keeping members engaged when these sessions are on. But beforehand as well, what do people want to hear? We're trying to survey our members more, but that's not really, we're not getting the engagement that we used to on surveys. So it's a case of asking them when they're on the session, what else do they want to hear in the future, so that we can be delivering the right content for them, or find someone who can deliver the right content for them, so that they're getting exactly what they want when they want
Yeah.
it.
I would just say as well,
You
Sorry.
mentioned survey. Oh, go
was
ahead, Robin,
all I was
please.
going to say is also, like I keep focusing on the networking element, to try and bring that in as well. We started doing like on Fridays where we just had like what we called the 11sies, and all of our volunteers got together with us, just for an informal coffee chat, just to make sure that everyone was doing okay. We also introduced mental health sessions, not just for ourselves, but for our members. And I mean, the uptake on those mental health sessions has been phenomenal, because it is something outside of just the normal scope of SAP. It's like, actually, we're worried about you. We're worried about how your mind is sitting at home. Some introverts, they've probably done really, really well sitting at home, probably not much difference to their lives. But those people that are the extroverts that like to be out there networking, there is that issue that now they don't have that physical contact with people. So even just having informal coffee chats worked really well. And as it worked so well with our volunteers, we also started to include that now, from the beginning of this year, of having special like coffee mornings just for our special interest groups. And I mean, the uptake on that's been really well as well, because it's like-minded people being able to talk about things that are of interest to them, no set agenda, just half an hour to have your coffee, it's been really good.
So has this been an opportunity to engage maybe a new segment of your membership that weren't the ones coming to the events? You're transitioning the ones who used to be in person, hoping to get a percentage of them, but you're also trying to reach beyond. And I'm wondering if engagement in total, I don't know how you're measuring it, but has engagement in total actually increased?
It's still early days yet for the engagement. Obviously, we do have lots of plans this year in place to increase our engagement with our members. We will be looking at sort of the touch points that we have with our members, so that we will be looking to personally reach out to every single one of our primary contacts, to re-engage them. If, this COVID has had an issue on their organization, it is to try and get them going to these online events. Do they just want to talk to someone? So we do have new plans there to obviously empower our members, get them re-engaged, enhance their membership, and really just enable them to make the most out of their membership and not just lose it because they don't see the value. So I think we've had to sort of relook at our offering and what we actually provide for our members. And luckily, looking at that, we haven't had to make too many changes, because what we were offering, it was a good solid foundation for us to build on.
Yeah, it was. I think it was one of our first public sector events, and we get to get decent attendance in the face-to-face meetings, but it was public sector, and let's say the purse strings are a bit stingier when it comes to travel and attendance. And apologies to all of our public sector members out there, but we held their event was one of the first that had to go online, and I think attendance doubled. And they were over the moon because they could attend those meetings. And there's been a number of the smaller special interest groups, as we call them, that have increased in attendance, because it's opened the door for more people to attend, because it is just the click of a button now. They can do it from their office chair, kitchen chair, bed, wherever they're working from. And it has opened the door really to get more people into these events. It's going to be very difficult to go back to a predominantly physical face-to-face eventually that we had.
Well, you're the first person I've actually heard admit that, and I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it is going to be very, very difficult for a multitude of reasons. But you're the first person I've heard who's just come up and said it. It's refreshing. It's good to hear it as well. But I am keen to understand what does it look like? I know we're still in the midst of the pandemic. I know that we are here in the UK. We're making significant progress in terms of our vaccinations program, etc. And I know that probably the other side of summer we'll be coming into some kind of. That was a dig at you.
We suck.
Elisa,
I get it.
Yeah.
We suck at it. We're not doing very good. It's
just wanted to, I'm just 14% of our population, if you want real data.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's 9 million people, just so you know.
Okay,
including
back
500,000 who've had this
recruitment
second, right? Okay. What does it
Did I
look
say
like
I
when
missed
we?
you? Did I say I missed you? I think you. Someone's calling your name. Go get that.
Is that a phone ringing? What's it going to look like when we get out of when we return? No, we're not returning. When we get into the space of our new normal of what business looks like post pandemic. Yeah, what is it going to look like? What are you going to do? I mean, how do you think you're going to? Oh, go on, Elise. Were you going to say something?
Well, I mean, we've basically doubled our members' expectations. In that new hybrid world, we're going to have to put on events and give in-person opportunity, and we're going to have to continue this virtual experience and give options. Our members' expectations have doubled now. So I agree with Matt that we're spreading ourselves now into two environments that have to be maintained at a high level. And that's going to be really difficult. Your membership now, what are you guys on for renewals? Are you on a calendar renewal, or how are you going to know where you stand? When will renewals kind of come to roost?
We've got two sort of sets of renewals that come about. So obviously we've got all of our loyal members who started with us many years ago, and they tend to be on a like a January to December rolling. And then a couple of years ago we sort of opened that up. So we do also have our rolling renewals throughout the course of the year. So majority of our renewals still come at the end of December time. So we are still working on those. Currently the numbers are looking really good. But there is still a large percentage of that we've got still from now till November that will still be coming up for renewal. So it's a continual sort of thing that we need to be on top of those. Fingers crossed with all the strategies and things that we've got planned for the year with our re-engagement campaigns and with our marketing campaigns, that we will be able to sort of keep majority of them on. And look at ways of keeping them. Really, that's the most important. Like, what do our members want? How do we give that to them? And how do we keep them happy at the end of the day? Because unfortunately, in these times, your association memberships seem to be the first ones to go. And the easiest answer is we don't see the value, but really they're so valuable. And just the power as a community, the differences that we can make. You just need to, make your members aware of what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the whole isolation piece as well. Everyone's been sat in their own homes doing their own thing, and they might connect with the team every now and again. And one of our volunteers actually said is they're missing the innovation that they get by just having a daft conversation over a coffee or a biscuit or overhearing a conversation in the office. How can people keep that going? And that's one of our main things. We're in touch with our volunteers every week who are our target audience, essentially, because they are SAP customers and they volunteer to lead the user group. But we're also trying just to get any form of communication with our members to see what do they want, how can we add value. And luckily, we've always come from a perspective of, it's members first, customers first. And, a lot of companies say it's all about the customer, but everything that we've done as a not-for-profit organization has been about helping SAP customers. So that's put us in good stead to start with, but now it's developing on that. What do you want? How can we help you? And how can you help each other? Because, internally, we're a very small team. We don't hold much SAP experience. The real value is when we put all of the people with SAP experience into the same room or on the same call. And that's what we're really trying to focus on.
Matt is obviously a big fan of coffee and biscuits. I mean, he's
I know.
mentioned it a couple
Quite
times.
a
It
lot
is
he's
like the
mentioned
lead.
that, isn't he? Yeah.
His recruitment strategy starts with coffee and biscuits.
Yeah.
But I love, what
I
what I hear him saying. This is really about the humanity of association connections, and we use the word community. What you can bring together. You said that people aren't responding to surveys as much. And I'm actually having that same experience with clients. And I'm wondering if because we're webinaring them to death and we're Zooming them to death, and that actually now some of the things we used to rely on that used to be special, we're inviting you to a survey or we're emailing you, this or that they're just so burned out that we may have to go old school and pick up the phone. To have a conversation. I know, Matt just made a face like, I know Matt looks so young. He probably doesn't even have a regular phone. But, so I mean, I'm wondering what people are going to have to revert to because we've pushed our members into such virtual exhaustion.
Hmm. And I think that's where Robin and her team are really coming into it this year. They've sat and really planned an engagement strategy, which involves actually speaking to members and picking up the phone and talking to them. But I won't step on Robin's toes. I'll let her add a bit more information around that.
You're taking a step back now because I was just talking about team meeting this morning. Yeah, actually, strangely enough, one of the first things that we've started to plan with our engagements is, as soon as our members' renewal dates have come and passed, the first thing that we're going to do is actually phone them to thank them. Thank you for your membership, thank you for supporting us, and then to see if there's anything that they're actually looking for this year. What can we do to help you moving forward? And then we're looking to have, like I said before, sort of minimal of 4 touch points with them throughout the year. 2 of those will definitely be phone calls, because I think that's the only way we can really reach out to them now and actually get anything back, because digital is just not working at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, quick question. You mentioned that you guys made a decision to reach out to them after they had renewed. What made you decide that versus before they received the renewal invoice?
Well, the plans that we already had in place for the time being, we've already started going out to them with an email. It was sort of a letter about saying what's included in their membership, what they've done this past year, as well as a letter that they could then give on to if they needed someone to sign off for the membership. So as we were looking forward to 2021, a lot of those members have already had that email. So instead of sending them that email and then they would have got their first renewal email to say, right, your membership's due in 3 months, we didn't then want to be phoning them on top of that, because then it's probably more like harassing them, like, we really want you to pay your membership. We want you to do
Right.
that.
It looks so self-serving.
You sort of have to take a step back. Yeah, so we have to take a step back and then, okay, if they haven't already had that, that membership call, a lot of them will have probably already spoken to the team, either when they're coming through to payment, or just want a question about what's due for their next membership.
Yeah. Well, I love that you
but it is
consider
just
your...
nice to...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it was just sort of a nice sort of gesture. Now, once they have renewed, that we go out to them and actually just thank them, because how many times have you taken out a membership and actually you've paid your fees and no one's come back to you to thank you for it? And you just sort of get left. And I didn't want that to be part of our membership where they get left behind and it's just sort of, say they didn't come to an event, or they didn't go online, or they didn't do anything for the whole year. And the next time they hear from us is when we're asking for membership fees at the end of the year. It's the last thing that I wanted for them. So the first port of call is thank you. You're a valued member. You mean something to our organization. We couldn't do this without you.
Yeah. No, it's so important, the strategy you guys have already adopted, which is a 12-month strategy. That it's not that last month before you renew or right at renewal time, which it's so transparent, it's so self-serving, and it doesn't give any, credit to your member, your mission. Here comes Andrew. Hold on.
Yeah, but I agree. I love that. You're absolutely correct. It is 12 months. It's an annual process as opposed to an annual event, if you like, an annual activity.
It's a relationship. It's a relationship, and you have to
Yeah.
invest in it year round.
So with my budget head on, it sounds awfully resource intensive.
What? Emails are free.
Phone
calls are free.
No, I mean, how much time does that take? Seriously, I mean, how much time are we talking about now? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I forget how big UK ISG is, but I mean, God, if one of my old associations, we'd been picking up a phone to every member, we'd have been a call center instead of an event management company. It just sounds like a really intensive experience. It just sounds really resource intensive, labor intensive. I'm not saying there's no value to it by picking up on Matt's point, which is we are a finite. The team is relatively small. We only got finite resources. How are you balancing all of that? I mean, I'm certainly not suggesting it's a poor approach. Far from it. I'm just really curious as to how is it manageable, and to then be also continually reinventing or refreshing the value proposition, and to be, as you said, Lise, members' expectations are increased. I think somebody said when we're spreading ourselves, arguably across a wider portfolio, but then arguably we're about to spread ourselves too thin, aren't we?
I think you forget that membership has to be everyone's job. And maybe that's how you guys
yeah,
handle it. But
oh, what's the three membership professionals nodding at me? Oh, yes. What do you know? You know nothing.
But this is the exec that looks at the bottom line instead of, hey, if everyone made 2 phone calls a day, we would have greater understanding of what our members need. We could implement that better. Yes, the strategies need to be determined by the team and the events need to be pivoted and changed, but everyone can have a hand in membership. Everyone can have a hand in nurturing that relationship. And it sounds like that's what Robin and
let's not make presumptions. Robin, is that what's happening?
Yes.
Ha,
so we actually do have, we pulled in.
Well, better that she confirmed it and we were just making presumptions, right? Go on, sorry. Go on, Robin. We rudely interrupted you with our bickering. Go on, go for it.
Again.
Well, what we've actually planned to do this year is, so we're actually splitting it out amongst the team. Everyone within the team will have their allocated memberships specifically to look after. I've drawn up a very lovely Excel spreadsheet that I'm sure everyone loves.
I love spreadsheets.
Can't have too many spreadsheets. Can't have too many spreadsheets.
But what I've actually done is, so in that you can actually see, so however many phone calls you need to make to those that have renewed, however many emails that you need to send, to those that are now due their 3 monthly catch up, how many phone calls you need to make to those that are currently due their 6 monthly discussions. And actually, when you break it down like that, you break it across the team, it's actually not that much. It's not that much. I mean, if you wanted to, you could probably put 1 day aside. I mean, 1 day a month is not excessive. It's not a lot. And you can put that aside just to reach out and speak to your members. Obviously the follow-ups and that may take a bit longer. With us, though, we wouldn't go to every single user under the membership. What we do is we actually go to primary contact.
Yeah.
Once we've got our conversation started with the main contact on the account, we can then go and have a look and say, oh, well, I see you have 3 users under your membership. Do you know you can add more? Oh, I can see that these ones haven't onboarded. Would you like to reach out to them? Would you like me to do it? And get them and go on board, get them engaged. So it is just that starting the conversations. And I think the thing is, the hardest part is to get the engagement up. But once you've got it up and you've got it going, it becomes easier to manage because then you can make sure that your contact details are up to date. So yes, the initial stages of making contact, that's always difficult because, your billing addresses can be incorrect, your contact details can be incorrect. But once you've got them engaged, you've got all those details, it becomes so much easier to manage that it just becomes a rolling train and you just keep on going and chugging along, and keep that engagement going.
Just contextualize it for me, please, Robin. How many members are we talking about for you guys?
At the moment, we just under 600 organizations of corporate members.
Yeah.
We also have like our partner side, which I think is about 850 at the moment.
Right.
So
okay.
Obviously the partner side we looked after separately by our affiliate team.
Okay.
And that's the affiliate member. You handle the affiliate members and the sponsors. That's that partner side. Has that group has their engagement stayed high, or is that suffering as well with the live events?
It went through the roof early doors and continued because we, as Robin mentioned earlier, we had a fairly solid digital event offering through webinars and whatnot. And people knew that, and they would get involved in 1-2 a year, perhaps, and then supplement that with, a sponsored newsletter or a face-to-face event sponsorship. When all of the face-to-face events diminished, they still had budget to spend on face-to-face events, like our annual conference, for example. So all of that money, probably not all of their budget, then diverted into digital opportunities. So their engagement was high. What we noticed was those that were just simply look at our product, look at how good we are, come and listen to us speak, those sessions got the lesser numbers, as you can imagine. And that became very apparent very quickly. A lot of organizations in the partner space shifted their mentality in, okay, are you considering this? Let us share our tips and tricks and our customers' thoughts or our experts' thoughts. Or they went from just having one person speaking for the hour slot to a 5-person discussion, like a podcast on a webinar.
Yeah.
And they changed the way they did things quite quickly as well. And we could help them and work with them to keep them engaged with us, but also our members engaged with their content. And they work really well with us, and they made it easy for us. You know, we could say, no, look, don't do it this way because you'll end up like so and so who just wanted to sell that product. But if you look at how this organization did it, and they came from a thought leadership perspective, they came from, no, look, we want to have a chat about how we've helped customers and free tools available to them, as some did. They were the ones that got the most engagement, and that's how we're sort of trying to shift our messaging. But that's probably how our messaging's always been. Really, is just, you know, we're here to help. What can we do to help you more, essentially?
Yeah, and I think, you know, my only experience of working with UKISUG is that you are a reflective organization. You take that, you know, and that's reflected in the process you've spoken about in terms of engaging with, you know, the members as a 12-month cycle rather than a one-off activity. And so I see a lot with you guys that, you know, communications, open, transparency is pretty fundamental to your success. And I'm very pleased to see that actually, you know, I mean, somebody mentioned the term virtual exhaustion, which I love that, actually. I think
That
that's
was
what
me.
I've
You're
got.
welcome.
Yeah, that
You're
was you,
welcome,
was it?
Andrew.
I think I've got
You're
virtual
welcome.
exhaustion. But you've thank you. But, you know, I'm getting the sense that actually you guys are countering that by also having that. It's not just for want of a better phrase, a blank screen in front of people. It's like you're actually still having that, human element, that human engagement, as it were. So I applaud you for that. But I really would like to invite you back on to the pod in 12 months and say, right, now we've gone through another annual cycle. Where do we are? I think it'd be a fascinating conversation if you were up for it, to sort of take time to reflect again and almost sort of track your journey, because I think yours is one that I'm really keen to. I know it's going to succeed, but I'm really keen to learn more about. So I am going to wrap up now, but I do hope that both of you will join us. Thank you very much. So thank you, Robin, and
Absolutely,
thank you,
yeah.
Matt. I really appreciate your time this afternoon. I really do.
Thank you
And
both.
I'm insanely jealous of your beer fridge in the back of your office there, Matt. It's basically all I've been looking at. Well, that's right. It's beer o'clock somewhere in the world.
It is indeed,
And we're
yeah.
global.
It is PM now, so
That's
I
right.
think it's
That's
time
right.
to head over there.
Exactly. Well, one of the joys of being on a transatlantic podcast is you can just start anytime, really, because it's just like. Well, thank you very much. Thank you again, both, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon. And obviously, thank you, Lise, for another excellent podcast. Thank you, and I hope you
welcome.
enjoy Florida. No, I really do hope you enjoy the sunshine in
you.
Florida.
I'm traveling safe. I've got all my precautions ready, so I'm ready to hit the road.
Good, excellent. So, and thank everybody for listening. Thank you for listening again this week. We hope you've enjoyed the pod. If there's a subject you want us to explore, or if you want to join us on the pod, you can tweet us at Association Transformation, or you can email us hello@yourconsort.com, and Lisa and I will draw on our network to pull together a pod that we know that it will be worth listening to. And if you've enjoyed listening to this week's Musings, then from wherever you access your pods, and we're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all the usual platforms, then do please add Association Transformation to your favorites, and then that way you'll hopefully never miss a podcast. So that's it from us this week, and until next time, stay well and put your members and your mission first. Association Transformation is brought to you in partnership between Consult Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions in support of the Institute of Association Leadership.